talk about Forspoken. All right.
Mm.
There's been a lot of discourse around Forspoken, especially after Luminous Productions was absorbed or merged,
Dissolved.
whatever you want to call it, into
That's
Square Enix. Square
those are
Enix
kind
said, "I'll
words.
let you go outside and cut the grass. You fucked up my grass, and I'm bringing you back in the house because you obviously didn't cut my grass, right?" Right.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are saying this game flopped because of this happening. A lot of people saying, "Oh, look, it was on the NPD top 10 list at one point, so it didn't flop."
It charted.
So Jay,
It
I'm gonna swing
charted.
over to you and start with you.
It charted,
I'm gonna
Baron.
start with you again.
It
Uh-oh.
it charted.
It
It
charted.
charted.
It
Yeah, it
charted.
charted on the NPD. Right?
I can't
But Jay,
stand
I'm gonna
you,
swing to
Jay.
you
You've
and
been
I'm gonna
killing
ask you
the
a simple
internet.
question. I'm gonna ask you, did Forspoken flop?
When is
Jay?
part 2 coming out?
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
this man here is a villain. That
That was the smoothest,
would-
pettiest remark I've ever heard. Like that was
Rick
that was
That was
smooth.
smooth
It
with
hurt.
That was real smooth with it.
Mm.
Flag on the
so
plate.
my man said it's a. I mean, now granted, and I'm gonna get to the super chat here in a second. Now granted, Square Enix didn't do it no favors with the marketing.
No,
They did it no favors, right?
They dropped the
But
ball.
Jay, in your heart of hearts, do you feel like this was a failure? Was it a flop?
I mean, according to Square, yeah, it was. Especially it didn't live up to the promotional things, right? It's gonna be the best looking game, open world game ever made. Built from the ground up specifically for the PS5. We didn't see that. So yeah, I mean, but it charted though, right? So I'm kind of conflicted. It charted number 7, but how many units did it sell? We don't actually have those numbers. But Metacritic
came out and
Me-
said it was like 2
hey,
million or something.
hey,
like that.
Metacritic score was looking kind of, shaky. So
yeah,
But the
Metacritic gave
metrics,
it
those metrics
63,
don't matter.
63 and 64.
oh no, right? So I'm gonna say it flopped. But as for the promotional thing, I did see some promotion over here in New York. I saw it posted on the trains and buses. In Times Square, I saw some advertisement for it as well. So, but listen, I don't know. Maybe they didn't put it in its best light. I would say with that demo, because I played the
Remember
demo and it was kind of
Blind
barren. Like it was like no life. Like it was lifeless. I would say. So that kind of turned me off to it. So I don't think the demo did it any favors, but overall I think it flopped.
Really quickly, I want to keep the topic going, but I'm gonna get to two of these super chats here. We got two super chat from Hustle and Motivate, who is always hustling and or motivating. Says, "I love y'all, especially Hugs. You know, Hugs gets the love around here."
Sarang.
To our super chat from Swaggy C, he says, "Do y'all keep your old consoles?"
Yo,
Yeah.
I'm
Nope.
blurred right now, but you see my 360 is there. I got yeah, I keep them.
I got my
I keep them. The
Sega,
PS3,
my
the
64.
much as I can. My old stuff, 64, Super Nintendo stuff was at my mom's crib, but all of my, like, I guess you can call it PS3 era, Xbox 360 era and above is with me. What about y'all? Before we get back to Forspoken.
Some of them I send back to the Dominican Republic or give it out to my cousins.
Oh, you're a
so
real
they can
one.
enjoy it, yeah.
For real. Yeah,
I
I
need
got money
mine.
off my next console, so no.
Don't get me wrong, backwards compatibility is great, but something about firing it up on that old system
Mm.
brings me, especially like Vice City, and when I put it on PlayStation 2, it's just like
Soundtrack.
just the janky ass controller, the janky ass controls brings me back to when I was in grade 6, and it just gives me that love. I'm surprised
That
the PlayStation 2 still
nostalgia.
works.
Yeah.
Dez, I'm gonna switch over to you. We're gonna get back to Forspoken. In your opinion, especially with Luminous production being the lights is on, bring your ass in the house. They got the lights turned on by Square Enix. Told them, hey, you've been out, it's dark outside, time to come in. Would you consider Forspoken, even though it charted on NPD? Would you consider it a failure, a flop?
I think if we're talking about how many units it moved and how much money it made, like that's traditionally what we call like a flop if it's not making the money that's it's projected to make. but I also think they dropped the ball in advertising. I think they could have done a lot of things differently that they didn't. I barely saw, I like you said, you saw some like shit on the trains and on the billboard. I didn't see shit here in Tennessee about it. So I feel like they only hit up certain cities. Like if and I feel like there was a lot of discourse around it about it, like the demo not being that great. So I feel like a lot of people just immediately were like, I'm not gonna buy it, which kind of makes me sad because you literally have games like, I'm sorry, but you literally have games like Pokemon that are shit and people still buy it, right? Because it has that brand name. And I just feel like Forspoken just didn't have that. It didn't have that. It makes me sad because I feel like this is going to be a telltale for what they think that, like, if you have a main protagonist of color or a female protagonist, it's just not going to sell games. It's not going to move units. But also, like, you didn't fucking market it well enough.
Now, Des,
Right.
let me ask you something. Do you think the $70 price tag was a obstacle for some?
Money is always an obstacle for some. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't think that's the reason why it didn't sell well, because everybody's charging that much for their games now, which is really, really shitty. But yeah, I don't think that's what it was. The way they what's the word I'm looking for? The way they presented it, I would expect it to be as much as other games that are presented kind of in the same realm. So I don't think that's what it was. I think they just really fucked up and they just didn't market it really well. And even if the demo was shit, like all of us have played a shit demo, but we're still really hyped to like check out the game, right? And you still get the game. I feel like they didn't show anything else after the demo to get you really hyped about it. Like, oh, okay, this wasn't in the demo, but this is gonna be in the game for sure. So that's just my
And
feeling. Yeah, it flopped.
I do want to
It
say a
didn't
lot of
sell enough
people
money.
on that Des. I think a lot of people, when it comes to the demo and then the when people said the cringiness of the dialogue, and then they tried to compare it to cringe moments in a game like Hi-Fi Rush. I think the difference is they hit differently because of the style of game. Like
Oh
I
yeah,
think
absolutely.
you're
Cartoony.
meant to take stuff at Forspoken a little bit more serious than you
It
would a
looks
game
like
like
a more
Hi-Fi Rush.
serious game, right? When
Yes,
you
I
compare it. The
think
other
it's
one,
not fair to compare.
right?
It looked
And
like
it's
Hi-Fi
a
booming
Res
Saturday,
kind
publishing.
of
Saturday morning
looks,
cartoon type
yeah,
of
it
vibes
looks like
going
an
on.
anime.
Yeah.
The one you compared
Yeah.
it to, so I would expect it to be like a little cringy. I don't know. Maybe they just fucked it all up. I honestly don't know. I'm not gonna buy the game. I played the demo. I'm not gonna buy the game because I just feel like I'm going to be disappointed. And I feel like probably a lot of people feel like that because so many people who have played the demo and who have played the game. So that really hurts it as well. I want to support it, but like, I also don't want to waste money on
I'm
something that I
willing
might
to
not like.
bet. When did Forspoken release? Who got the release date?
Was it
Came out
February?
January 24th.
My birthday.
Of this year.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet February 15th, 2025, we get an announcement this game is releasing in Game Pass.
Yeah, I can see
Probably.
that.
I'm
And they'll
willing
probably
to
give it a
bet.
new life.
Because
I
fucking-
wonder if it'll turn into like a cult classic like after
That's
that.
it. Yes.
That's what I'm
Definitely.
thinking.
Death
Like
Stranding
That's what I was
did.
about to say.
yeah.
Yeah, it's going to
Stranding,
be a
Days
Days Gone
Gone.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Days Gone.
People are going to be like, oh my God, why didn't this game get this? All it's going to take is one big content creator to get out there and live stream it and make a couple clips about it and be like, man, look at the particles. They're going to use the same verbiage in the few ads that I did see. And all of a sudden, everybody is going to be messaging and talking about them. We're going to be circling back to these conversations. I 1,000% believe that's what's going to happen.
and I do want to go here. I think this is, and I talked about this. I was just in the Addict show. I told you about the Addict. I was on the Addict show before I came in, and I see a comment in the chat right now. The whole, and I think we talked about this as well, because the same thing with Ironheart that I hate. I'm sick of the, being a criminal or being from the hood or daddy dying.
Black Scroll.
I'm sick of that stuff, bro. Being in jail.
Criminal
Give us
record.
different
I'm
trauma.
sick of that, bro.
Right.
Why couldn't her parents be like some CEOs who got caught doing tax evasion or something, and like her whole life dropped into
Because
poverty?
you
I would
literally
take
have
that. Give her a white collar crime.
you have
Why
white
she gotta have a
people-
whole rap sheet? Like,
you
come
have
on,
white
like,
people writing black stories. That's part of the problem. You have
Yeah,
white
that's
people
true.
producing the games and hiring black writers, but telling them, "Oh no, that's not really what we're looking
Well,
for.
too-
That's not."
too much color.
Yeah,
And Baron, I was kind of right. I looked up the ending. Remember, I said the big lady she was showing off was like her.
Spoiler alert!
It's not her, but the other thing I said of a certain
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
definitely. And I was like, I don't want to figure out the end of like it's not Marvel. We know how the Marvel games and the movies are gonna end. That's okay. Those are written 40 years ago. We're just following procedure. But this, I was just like, I think we watched it when it was first announced, and I was like, I smell something funky that I know something ain't right with this game.
I'm waiting for the Gone Girl of games.
I've already
Like-
got to wait for that price drop. That's what I'm waiting on.
No,
I
well,
need
that
to be
too.
$15
Oh, yeah.
on Steam.
Yeah, when
$3.99.
it hits PC for the super cheap.
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
it to be in a bundle on Fanatical.
You know what I think nobody's talking
It'll
about?
be part of a humble bundle pretty soon. Watch.
It will. With this game,
I was
though,
just about to
is people aren't talking. Yes, this game flopped. I love flop games. Actually, Baron, I have sad news. Anthem is fully down. You cannot play it anymore. Oh, my
Yep,
baby.
it's gone.
Really?
She
Yep.
gone. She gone. Yeah,
Hmm.
I can't play
Forever.
more.
Took
So
her
all
out to the
that
back.
$120 I paid for the legendary edition. Yeah. But nobody's talking about how Square Enix is slowly turning into EA. This is not the first studio they've Outriders. They weren't happy with that
Was
it
that
was
People
a,
Can Fly?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They weren't happy that
That
it
was
was a
gonna be my
single player
point.
game. People got into it, and then they're like, make it a service game, and they said no. There was another one, The Quiet Man, which was the guy who was deaf, and the whole game was silent. They promoted
Mm.
that kind of poorly, and then they were surprised when it flopped. Square Enix, they lost Tomb Raider. They gave away Tomb Raider.
Because they're pumping and dumping, bro. They're treating
They're
this like
pumping
a
and dumping.
crypto.
Yo.
I think they're just trying
Actually-
to sell.
They just lost. They just fired the CEO that was trying to force NFTs into all of their games.
Ta-da.
And the new one is promoting it.
Yep.
Ta-da. That sounds like you trying to sell to me.
Yep. So Square
Let's
Enix
devalue ourselves. You can get us for the low.
They're
Just give me a
slowly
job.
turning into EA, but not in a good way. Because EA
Get
is
ready to
kind
buy
of
those stocks.
EA's turning it
Yeah.
around slowly.
slowly. But like Square Enix is taking that dive, and it's just like, holy shit, are you guys okay? Oh, ATL says this is the same company that said black people can't be in Final Fantasy 17 because of or Final Fantasy 16 because of historical reasons. That I forgot
Right.
they did say that.
Black people weren't born then.
Right.
Yeah, black people.
Wait, was
were
that-
medieval
was
ages.
that-
There was no
Is it
blacks in the
Square
middle.
Enix
We,
It's
we weren't part of
Japanese.
that update.
Well, no
Right.
black.
Square Enix, yeah.
Square Enix is Japanese, though, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
out
Well,
on
then
the way
that
path.
makes sense.
Yeah, man.
Back
Woo,
to
that
Forspoken.
game.
Okay,
flop-
back to
floppity,
Forspoken.
flop,
I'll
flop,
go.
flop.
I'll go.
That game.
We can talk
flopped.
about it afterwards.
There's
It charted.
no-
Yeah,
It charted though, Fame.
did
It charted
chart.
though,
But
Fame.
there's-
Now,
It
Fame,
charted.
Fame, let
I
me
mean,
ask
The
you something, Fame.
Forspoken.
Let me ask you, Fame. Because I keep hearing you guys say, "I'll wait for a sale." So that I got to come back to my question. Do you think the $70 price tag affected it somehow?
Yes.
Yeah,
If it was
I think
40,
that
if it
was-
was Ubisoft
wasn't
and
that
did a
like the
40
start
or
of when-
39, it would have did great.
Yeah, but wasn't like when Forspoken came out, that was like one of the first major games with a $70 price tag.
It was.
So
And
I
at
don't
that
think
time,
people were
it
conditioned
wasn't acceptable.
for the 70.
I mean, yes,
Mm,
it wasn't
okay.
widely accepted. At
Right.
this point, we've all kind of laid down and say, do what you want.
right.
it's-
We've been the knee.
My man
At
said,
this point, right? Because we've accepted it.
my man
Yeah.
said, lay down,
Oh.
do what you want.
Yep.
I'm,
Take it how
I'll
you
catch
live.
y'all later.
Vaseline and
So
all.
I'm just I think that's a contributing factor. But for me again, I have interest in the game,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but I need that Steam sale. I need that Fanatical bundle,
Yeah.
or I need that Game Pass releasing because apparently it's supposed to be a 2-year timed exclusivity on this
They
title.
say.
That's gonna kill the game, man.
And I can
Well,
definitely see Square because we know Square, Sega, they'll just start dropping their collection of games in Game Pass. whatever deal they got going, right? I can see that happening. I would jump on that immediately because I know people get caught up on Game Pass. You don't want to pay; it's free. I think it's at no additional cost. Again, um, I don't think Forspoken is a bad game. I think critically it got hit harder than what it should have. Number one, I think Square Enix did not do a good job at promoting this game. I think
never
they
did.
let it out there to die. Some of the first things we saw about this game was a massive frame rate issues, and then we started getting those clips from the demo of people saying that the voice acting was cringe. But where is your PR team to do something to turn it around? It didn't exist. It's like they didn't even attempt to at least, at bare minimum, how when someone's, make like you getting roasted, and to kind of make the roasting stop, you start roasting yourself too, like where you do something, but they didn't. They let the game be out there the way it is. They let the community or the gaming space take over the narrative around the game. And I think that even more so than the price is the reason why it's not critically acceptable. I got a $5 super chat from Jay. He says, did y'all hear Microsoft stop negotiating with Sony? Ooh.
I didn't hear that one.
I didn't hear that.
I saw they said they wasn't negotiating. I didn't hear they stopped.
Damn.
Oh, Lord.
I didn't hear it, but that's something we're gonna have to. I gotta not to dive away too much, but it's upcoming Monday. I'm doing a 15 minutes of fame with Jay Barry, and we're talking about some actual video game stuff. But I ain't gonna lie, we might dive into some of this because it's me and Barry. It is what it is. That's my man. We really gonna dive into it. But back to Forspoken. Shout out to you, Jay, again for the super chat. We really appreciate you for rocking with us. You were A1 since day one. You were a real one. We appreciate you. But again, I think, Jay, just back to your point about the $70. I think the lack of Square Enix caring for this, in a lot of ways, Western title, it is more of a detriment to how it was received more so than the price.
Yeah.
Well, let me go ahead and throw my little 2 cents in on this. I see Square just whatever games they already had in development, they're just trying to get them out. They're trying to become the new Fortnite, and their Fortnite is going to be Final Fantasy. I think that's all they want to work on now. It's just Final Fantasy. Going to be a Final Fantasy studio. Because if you think about it, every other studio and game that they worked on, they threw them under the bus. Every game flopped.
They did.
If you look at their track record, ever since the last Tomb Raider, ever since the last Tomb Raider, everything is underperforming. No expectations. It flopped. We're shipping them off, selling this, selling that. But what's the one thing they stick up and defend? Final Fantasy. They'll go to bat for Final Fantasy. But everything else, they throw under the bus. So that's how I see them. They're just all the games and contracts they already had. They're trying to just do them, get them out the way, and then they're going to focus on Final Fantasy. And that's going to be it. I think that's really what they're trying and heading towards. It's just going to be a strictly Final Fantasy studio.
Wild statement. Because I believe in the future, because of this whole Activision stuff, we're going to be seeing IPs being sold. And Square Enix just really feels like they're trying to dissolve. And watch them like sell Square Enix IP to Sony at like a high premium, and then all of a sudden you see a couple jobs promised on the back end, and then they just flop and pull a Toys R Us and disappear. And then you just got Sony releasing nothing but Final Fantasy games.
Sony's definitely gonna eventually have control and stake in Final Fantasy. But I do want to